October 27, 1962. The bottom of the Caribbean Sea. September 26, 1983. A bunker outside Moscow. November 1983. An intelligence office in London. 3 moments, 3 people, none of them in a position of ultimate power. None of them with authority over global strategy. None of them with any reason to believe that what they did next would matter beyond their own lives. Each of them, in their moment, made a choice. And each of those choices is the reason you are here. 3 times, in the space of 21 years, one individual human being, standing between the world and a nuclear exchange. Not institutions, not treaties, not diplomacy. One person. 3 times. None of them famous, none of them decorated, none of them remembered. In the next 11 minutes, I am going to show you 3 people. First, a Soviet naval officer. Trapped in a submarine at the bottom of the Caribbean, given a nuclear torpedo. And asked to vote. Second, a Soviet military analyst. Watching a screen that showed 5 American missiles headed for Moscow. And given 28 minutes to decide whether the system was right. And third, a KGB officer living a double life. Who passed a single message to the British and set in motion a chain of events that changed the Cold War. 3 unknown people, 3 times the world almost ended, 3 times it didn't. Vasily Arkhipov, The Vote, Build the Pressure in the Submarine, October 27, 1962. The Cuban Missile Crisis, Day 13. Deep in the Atlantic Ocean, a Soviet submarine, designation, B-59. For days, it had been hunted, American destroyers dropping practice depth, signaling the submarine to surface. Inside B-59, the crew had been submerged so long, they could no longer receive radio signals. They did not know what was happening above. They did not know whether war had already begun. The temperature inside the submarine exceeded 45 degrees Celsius. Carbon dioxide levels were rising. Some crew members had lost consciousness. The captain, Valentin Savitsky, made a decision. If this was war, they would not go down quietly. B-59 was equipped with a nuclear torpedo. Yield, approximately 15 kilotons. The same destructive power as the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Savitsky wanted to arm it. Under Soviet protocol at the time, launching a nuclear weapon from a submarine required the agreement of 3 senior officers. The captain voted yes. The political officer voted yes. The third officer was Vasily Arkhipov. He was the flotilla commander, the most senior officer aboard. He looked at his captain. He looked at the political officer. He said no. He argued, calmly, persistently, that they could not be certain war had started, that they should surface and establish communication. Savitsky eventually agreed. The torpedo was not launched. B-59 surfaced. The Cuban Missile Crisis ended 11 days later. If Arkhipov had voted yes, the Americans would have responded, the Soviets would have responded to the response. Within days, or hours, the entire Cold War nuclear arsenal would have been in the air. 1 man, 1 vote, 2-1. The margin by which civilization survived. Stanislav Petrov. The system said, launch. Tension builds methodically. Each minute of his 28-minute window matters. September 26, 1983. 12:14 a.m., Moscow time. Stanislav Petrov was the duty officer at Serpukhov 15, the Soviet Early Warning Center. His job was to monitor a satellite system designed to detect American nuclear launches. At 12:14 a.m., an alarm went off. One missile, the system said, an American ICBM, had been launched from the United States, heading for the Soviet Union. Petrov had 28 minutes, the flight time of a Minuteman III missile. If the launch was real, the Soviet leadership needed to know immediately, so they could order a response. Petrov looked at the screen. He looked at the protocols. He looked at the data. Something didn't feel right. A genuine American first strike would not be one missile, it would be hundreds, thousands. One missile made no strategic sense. But the system was saying launch. The protocol said, report immediately. His superiors were waiting. Then the system changed. 2 missiles. Then 3. Then 4. Then 5. 5 American missiles on the screen, headed for the Soviet Union. The system was saying, this is real. Report. Escalate. Respond. Petrov sat in his chair. And he did not report. He decided it was a false alarm, based on 2 things: the number of missiles made no tactical sense, and the satellites had been having technical issues. He was not certain. He said so himself, later. He described it as a 50-50 guess. He was right. The Soviet early warning satellite had malfunctioned. It had mistaken sunlight reflecting off clouds for the exhaust plume of an ICBM. 5 times. It had been fooled by the sun. Petrov's career was effectively ended. He was never formally punished, but he was never formally celebrated, because celebrating him would mean admitting that the system had failed. He died in 2017, in a small apartment outside Moscow. Largely forgotten. Oleg Gordievsky, the truth he told. This story is about moral paradox. Let it breathe. Oleg Gordievsky was a senior KGB officer. He was also, since 1974, a British agent. For a decade, he passed Soviet intelligence to MI6, not for money. He later said he was motivated by revulsion at the Soviet invasion of Czechoslovakia in 1968. In November 1983, Gordievsky was in London as the KGB's resident director. He watched the Soviet reaction to Able Archer 83, the NATO exercise that the Soviets genuinely believed was preparation for a nuclear first strike. He watched Soviet nuclear forces go to their highest alert. He watched officers prepare for a war they believed was starting. He knew it was a simulation. He passed the information to his British handlers, urgently. London told Washington. For the first time, the Reagan administration understood how close the world had come. Reagan read the intelligence. He wrote in his diary, "I feel the Soviets are so defense-minded, so paranoid about being attacked, that without being in any way soft on them, we ought to tell them that no first strike is ever contemplated by us." The man who had called them an evil empire had just realized they were afraid of him. The remaining years of the Cold War changed. Direct communication increased. Arms reduction talks began. A different trajectory became possible. Gordievsky was extracted from the Soviet Union in 1985, hidden in the trunk of a British car, crossing the Finnish border. He is alive today. He has received limited public recognition. He has never been awarded a Nobel Peace Prize. He has never been invited to address the United Nations. The man who may have done more than anyone to prevent a nuclear exchange lives quietly in England.
The argument lands fully here. 3 times in 21 years.
the world nearly ended. Not because of villains, not because of reckless leaders. Because of systems. Systems that were designed to work, systems that did work, exactly as intended. And almost killed everyone. 3 times, one person stood between the system and its conclusion. Not an institution, not a treaty, not a protocol. A person. Vasily Arkhipov, a naval officer in a submarine, following his conscience. Stanislav Petrov, an analyst in a bunker, trusting his gut against the machine. Oleg Gordievsky, a spy living a double life, telling the truth to the enemy. None of them were supposed to save the world. The system was supposed to save the world. The system failed. They didn't. Here is the question that stays with me. We built the most sophisticated military systems in history. We spent trillions of dollars on deterrence. We wrote doctrines. We signed treaties. We held summits. And the world survived, because 3 ordinary people made the right call. How many times have we been this lucky? And how many times did nobody say no?
There's a place on Earth more remote than space itself. And in 2030, the most expensive object humanity ever built will be buried there. Watch the graveyard at the edge of the world.